Hi, good morning. Thank you for coming. As usual, Ambassador will make some remarks about the Council's work for this past month. Maybe we'll take some of your questions. Ambassador, please.
Good morning. July has been a busy month. The Security Council met 30 times, adopted 4 resolutions, 4 presidential statements, and issued press elements 7 times. There are 3 salient features, as I see it, concerning the month of the July in the Council's work. The first one is the open debate on enhancing African capacities in the area of peace and security. Last time I told you about why China put forward this initiative, and we can say that we achieved the intended results. There were so many. There was wide participation in the open debate. Over 60 countries and representatives of international organizations attended the open debate. Secretary General Antonio Guterres and also the AU High Commissioner for Peace and Security, Ismail Chegui, briefed the Council on the issue, and also the Foreign Minister from Senegal and Vice Minister from Ukraine participated in the conference. There were so many ideas put forward by the participants concerning what the United Nations, what the Security Council can do to help Africa enhancing such capacities. They include establishment of a mechanism of consultation between the United Nations and AU, so that consultations can take place regularly, and also to study in depth the financing of the peacekeeping capacity of Africa, and also to provide greater support, including logistics, to the peacekeeping operations conducted by the African Union, and also to help Africa in mediation and conflict prevention. And of course, many proposals were made regarding the elimination of poverty in Africa, and also increasing employment and tackling the root causes for conflict. And we believe that the open debate made contribution to enhancing the capabilities of Africa in peace and security, and also African efforts to achieve stability and development on the ground. And this open debate was actually juxtaposed between the work by the Bolivian presidency in June, also on peacekeeping in Africa, and also the 2 months of August and September, when Egypt and Ethiopia will take up the presidency of the Security Council. They will also deal with issues concerning peace, development, stability, peacekeeping in Africa. So the 4 months form a season of helping Africa in peace and stability, and we hope that this will generate momentum in the United Nations in helping Africa, and also the ideas that transpired from the open debate and from later events in August and September will be translated into practical measures to help Africa to enhance their capacities in peace and security. And also, the open debate was a way for the Security Council to respond to the outcome of the African Union at its 29th summit. There were issues and initiatives put forward at the AU summit, and it was important for the Security Council to respond to these African initiatives. And also, it was a firm support to the agreement between the AU and the United Nations to help AU in peacekeeping and peace building in Africa, documents signed by the AU and the Secretary General of the United Nations. So that's the first one. The second one is about the situation in Palestine. You know that situation got very tense in Jerusalem, and at one point there was the real risk of escalation of tension and things getting bigger. And what the Chinese presidency did was to respond to the requests of the members of the Security Council and countries outside the Security Council to organize an informal consultation on the issue, to work on the various sides so that we can calm down the situation, de-escalate, and create conditions for dialogue to try that so that stability will prevail in the city. And secondly, we held an open session on the 25th of July. The focus of the open session was largely on the Palestinian issue. Nearly 50 countries and international organizations spoke at the opening debate, and there were very important messages sent out from the open debate in the Security Council. The importance being given to two-state solution as the objective of the negotiations by the two sides, and also to urge the relevant sides to refrain from violence, and also to urge that the settlements activities be stopped, and also to put forward specific proposals and ideas for the long-term solution of this decades-old problem that we still face, which is at the core, as we see it, of all the Middle East issues. And in my statement, I pointed out how we saw the situation, and also the recent proposals made by President Xi to resolve the situation and to seek a long-term, lasting, and comprehensive solution. And after the Security Council's deliberations, we see that with the help of the relevant parties from the international community, the situation has evolved in a positive, in a more stable direction. But then the situation is still fragile. It is still very important for the Security Council to follow up in its efforts to try to consolidate the stability on site, and also to work towards a longer solution of the issue. Now, the third major area is the regional issues. On the 10th of July, the Council adopted Resolution 2366 to deploy the second political mission in Colombia to verify the implementation of parts of the final agreement relating to the process of political, economic, and social reincorporation of the FARC, EP, and the implementation of personal and collective security guarantees. The resolution was a very important step made by the Security Council to support the implementation of the agreement. Many Council members believe that the successful implementation of the peace agreement represents one of the rare bright spots in the work of the Security Council. It entails that Colombia will open a new page of stability and development and national unity. It also sets a very good example for the solution of other regional issues through dialogue. It shows that no matter how long the problem may have lasted, and in this case it lasted for decades, given the political will and real efforts to put the national interest, the people's interest, above other considerations, a solution can be found, a solution that is good for the country and also for the region. So we just hope that with the adoption of the resolution, the Security Council will be helpful in ensuring the implementation of the final agreement. And another important regional issue dealt with by the Security Council is the situation in Libya. Recently, many countries, Egypt, Italy, and neighbors of Libya, have worked to try to make a difference on the ground. And also the Arab League, African Union, and the EU have been working very hard to improve the situation in the country. On the 26th of July, at the invitation of the French President, President Macron, the President of the Presidency Council of Libya, Mr. Fayez Sarraj, and also the the commander of the LNA, General Khalifa Haftar, met in Paris and issued a joint statement. On the 27th, the Security Council reviewed the situation, heard the report, the briefing by the French PR, François Delattre, and also issued a very clear-cut message to welcome the latest developments, to appreciate the French effort, and also to support further efforts to achieve ceasefire and national reconciliation in the country, and also to support the good offices of the United Nations and also the new special representative, Ghassan Salam, in working with various parties in Libya to achieve an early situation in Libya that features security, stability, and unity. And also on the 27th of July, the Council adopted unanimously Resolution 2369 to extend the mandate of UNFICYP for another 6 months. As you know, with the good offices of the Secretary General and also the work of the other members of the international community, the latest round of inter-community talks were held. And even though there was no agreement that emerged from the talks, the two sides got closer than ever before to a package solution. And the two sides saw the final shape of the package solution. For us, that in itself is a very important progress. The general sense of the Security Council is that now more efforts need to be made to keep the negotiations and dialogue in process and in progress, and also to work out solutions based on the Security Council requirements. And we certainly would like to work with the other countries to promote this inter-communal dialogue. And we believe that it is important to keep up the momentum and to work towards a solution based on the Security Council resolutions. The Security Council also dealt with other issues like Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon, DRC, South Sudan, Burundi, Central African Republic, ECOWAS, Haiti, the Korean, the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula, and also the issue of the 1267 committee. And the general direction of the work is to try to create conditions for solving these issues. Now, I would like to mention in this respect the chemical weapons issue in Syria. For the first time in 6 months, the Council issued press elements on the investigation into the use of chemicals as weapons in Khan Shaykhun and Hush, the report by the fact-finding mission. The Council condemned all use of chemicals as weapons and also indicated its support to the OPCW and United Nations Joint Inspection Mission, and that was a unanimous voice from the Security Council on this issue in 6 months, and we are glad that there was unity in the Council to support such a message being sent out from the Council. And of course, the Council was briefed by the by Staffan de Mistura on the latest round of Geneva talks and also the Astana process, and the Council members followed closely the progress in the political talks and generally expressed the hope that the Geneva talks and the Astana process should reinforce each other in moving towards a Syrian-led, Syrian-owned political process that will put an early end to the conflict in the country and paving the way for a political process down the road. And the humanitarian issue was also dealt with by the Security Council, and the Council members were all concerned about access, and they urged all parties to provide swift, unhindered, and safe access to humanitarian assistance to Syria. Now, on African issues, DRC, South Sudan, Burundi, and also Somalia and Eritrea, the Council discussed these issues in depth and heard the views of the countries concerned, from the regions or sub-region, and the Council expressed the support to the African Union and other sub-regional organizations like the International Conference in the Great Lakes region, the East African Community, IGAD, and also the Council indicated the support to their leading role in solving African issues through building up confidence, achieving reconciliation, and also to resolve differences through dialogue. At the same time, the Council has called on the international community to devote further attention, effort to the solution of the African issues, particularly to resolve the root cause issues of development, to provide humanitarian assistance, and also to work towards building up peace and stability in the relevant countries. Now, something about how we see the Security Council. Now, we see the Security Council as the core organization for the maintenance of peace and stability in today's world, and it is a very important platform of governance in security, global governance relating to security issues. So, as President of the Security Council, starting from this understanding, we have approached issues dealt with by the Security Council from the perspective of building the right global governance in terms of security, and the Council's work should foster a new paradigm of security that is cooperative, integrated, that's common, and also that give precedence to the common efforts working together. So we see the Council's work as a platform to foster such a new paradigm of security. And we certainly proceeded from the standpoint of strengthening collective security in the United Nations and to try to make the work of the Security Council more meaningful on the ground and also more meaningful on the themes that the Security Council deals with. And we believe that to achieve this purpose, it is important for the presidency of the Security Council to be more transparent and to take an impartial and objective attitude, and also to raise the efficiency of the Security Council. And also it is important for the Security Council members, particularly the President, to work with other members of the international community, members of the General Assembly, to bring their perspectives, to bring regional perspectives into the deliberation of the Security Council on the various issues. And we have been guided by this thinking, and we have tried our level best to do likewise. And finally, I would like to say a word of thanks to you. You have been following the various issues dealt with by the Security Council, sending out the message about the key aspects of what the Council is doing. So in doing so, you have also been part of the work of the Security Council in reaching out to the general public internationally. So please accept my sincere gratitude in the constructive role that you played in making the Council's work more meaningful and better known in different parts of the world. Thank you.
May I open the floor for questions? The first is Sherwin, please.
Well, on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, Ambassador, you're welcome. And thanks for coming to talk to us again. Sherwin Briceby, South African Broadcasting. I heard you wanted to talk about the D.P.R case. I'm happy to oblige. Number of statements, tweets from the United States President over the weekend, your colleague Nikki Haley, in which she spoke about any additional resolution that does not significantly increase international pressure on North Korea would be of no value. She calls out China specifically on whether you will take the final step. Is China prepared to back a new resolution on the DPRK, given the latest ICBM launch that significantly increases pressure? And then in addition to that, Ambassador, can you talk about your bilateral relationship with the DPRK? Is your influence over the DPRK overstated by countries like the United States?
This is indeed a very big question. Let me answer the question this way. In the first place, we indicated on each occasion that we are firmly opposed to any violation of the relevant Security Council resolutions. This includes nuclear testing and ballistic missile testing by DPRK. And we have been urging DPRK and indeed other relevant countries not to exacerbate the situation in Korean Peninsula by avoiding language and action that heightens tension on the Korean Peninsula, because that runs counter to the objectives sought to be achieved through Security Council resolutions. Now, I indicated this many times. Many of you have heard this more than once. Our objective is to achieve denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, maintain peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, and to seek negotiated solution through dialogue and consultations. We are opposed to conflicts or war on the Korean Peninsula. And I believe that these objectives are shared widely by the international community. And these three things have guided us in our work in working out the relevant previous Security Council resolutions on the denuclearization and peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. And as you can see, the relevant resolutions do contain contents that reflect or contribute to these three objectives. Basically, if we can generalize broadly about what the relevant resolutions contain, they contain sanctions to address the nuclear and ballistic missile program in DPRK, sanction measures. And secondly, the resolutions point out that no adverse humanitarian impact is intended, and normal economic relations shouldn't be adversely affected. In other words, this is not a resolution to impose economic blockade of the country, nor to deprive the people of DPRK of their basic humanitarian needs. And thirdly, the resolution calls for efforts to de-escalate tension, to relaunch six-party talks, and also to work to reduce tension, which means to avoid any language or action that might exacerbate the tension on the Korean Peninsula. So these things make up the sum total of the obligations unanimously adopted by the Security Council in the form of three relevant resolutions, and they constitute an obligation that all the members of the Security Council and of the international community should treat seriously. Every relevant country should uphold responsibility in ensuring that all the obligations, everything contained in the resolution, must be implemented. And that is the responsibility, the right responsibility derived and obligation derived from the Security Council resolutions. But now let's see what's happening. Unfortunately, there's no dialogue at this point. We see preconditions put to starting the dialogue. China has been working very hard to try to initiate a negotiated solution of denuclearization and peace and stability. And in doing so, as you know, we have proposed a package solution, the freeze for freeze and suspension for suspension and denuclearization for peace or security mechanism on the ground. We believe that that is a viable and probably the only way forward. And also recently, China has been working closely with the Russian Federation in putting together a roadmap to achieve the objectives that we designed. But unfortunately, even though the resolution calls for dialogue, calls for the resumption of negotiations, even though China has put forward a specific roadmap and package proposal for what the dialogue is about and for taking things forward, there has been no dialogue. So that means this part of the obligation contained in the Security Council resolutions is not honored by the relevant countries. And also in terms of de-escalating tension. Now, instead of de-escalating tension, we see, of course, further testing that we oppose, and we also see language and action from elsewhere that heightens tension, talking about all options on the table. We all know what it means and what it contains. And also we see more deployment of strategic systems, acceleration in the deployment of strategic systems on the Korean Peninsula. For instance, that is not the way to counter the purported testing by D.P.R, but that has a wider security strategic implication for the region. It has a big negative impact on the stability, strategic stability of the region, and also the strategic security of countries like China and other countries. And we see other moves like the long-arm unilateral sanctions outside the scope of the Security Council that is not in conformity with the unanimously agreed measures and scope adopted by the Security Council. What's adopted by the Security Council is the things that countries should implement. But the unilateral action hinders the implementation of the international norm as embodied by Security Council resolutions. So this is what's happening. And we can see that these developments run counter to the obligations contained in the relevant Security Council resolutions. So I believe it is clear to all who has done what to implement the Security Council resolutions, who has failed to uphold the responsibility to implement the Security Council resolutions. From the nature of this issue, there are two principal parties to the issue of denuclearization and peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, D.P.R and the United States. Well, people talk about China a lot. If the two principal parties refuse to move towards what is required by the Security Council resolution, de-escalation of tension, negotiations to achieve denuclearization and peace and stability, and also to resume dialogue, then no matter how capable China is, China's efforts will not yield practical result because it depends on the two principal parties. They hold the primary responsibility to keep things moving, to start moving in the right direction, not China. So that's what I can say about the complete and precise implementation of the relevant Security Council resolutions. China have been implementing the resolutions in good faith, in a comprehensive way, and we urge other countries to do so. The fact that the resolutions are not so far implemented in a comprehensive and precise way says a lot about the kind of difficulties that we face at the moment. Now, talking about influence, China's influence on D.P.R, I'm quoting you, quote unquote. It's not my terminology. I think if we look at the decision-making process of any country, and I'm talking about this in abstract, there are things that are decisive for the decision-making process of any country. And we believe that the best thing the international community can do together, I stress together, and should do together, is to move on several fronts. The first one is to make sure that the political will to resolve the issue of denuclearization is translated into actual moves, negotiations, dialogue, reducing tension on the ground. And secondly, countries work together to ensure that the nuclear and ballistic missile programs do not get anything from internationally. So I think all these things are important to ensure that we move in the direction of resolving this issue, or at least to create or accumulate conditions for movement in this positive direction. So China certainly will continue to work with other members of the international community to achieve the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula through negotiations. But we just hope that the other countries can see that they also need to take up their responsibilities in comprehensively implementing the relevant Security Council resolutions, and also work with China and other members of the international community to achieve the objectives that I highlighted.
Just to clarify, Ambassador, there's no need from China's perspective then for a new resolution. Is that my correct reading of your response?
The new resolution is under discussion in the Security Council. We believe that given the two recent ballistic missile testings, we really need to look at the best way to achieve the three objectives that I referred to, and also what measures should be put in place to prevent further testing, and at least to make sure that the non-proliferation regime works better to stop the nuclear and ballistic missile programs. So we are working on a new response from the Security Council.
For the second question, let's go to Xinhua. Xinhua, please.
The first time here, Ma Jianguo from Xinhua News Agency. My question concerns the Palestine issues. The Middle East has been always the focus of attention of the world, and this month again, the Palestine issue has called attention worldwide. And we have, under your presidency, the Security Council have open debate and the meetings closed door are open on this issue. Luckily, tensions been cooled down. But my question is, what other measures or what other action the international community can do for long-term stability and peace in this area or the country? Thank you.
Yeah. First, welcome to join us. And second, I hope that the room will be more first-time friendly. I think that touches on a very fundamental question. We see the Palestinian issue as one that's at the core of the Middle East issue. And we are working with the other parties to try to move this issue to a stage of resumed negotiations to find a lasting and comprehensive solution based on the two-states solution. Practically, we don't see any other alternative to the two-state solution. As you know, recently President Abbas visited China, and President Xi put forward 4 proposals for the comprehensive solution of the Palestinian issue. And this will be our overall guidance in our diplomatic efforts to try to move the process of resolving the Palestinian issue forward. Now, just now I mentioned briefly that I talked about the 4 proposals in the open debate. So I just would like, since I have a copy at hand, I would just like to reiterate the 4 proposals. Now, in his recent talks with President Mohammed Abbas of Palestine, President Xi Jinping made a new 4-point proposal on promoting the settlement of the Palestinian question under the new circumstances. First, we should firmly advance the political settlement based on the two-states solution. China firmly supports the two-state solution and the establishment of an independent state of Palestine with full sovereignty based on the 1967 borders and with East Jerusalem as its capital. China will continue to play a constructive role for the settlement of the question of Palestine. Second, we should uphold the concept of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. China calls for the earnest implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 2334 and an immediate stop of all settlement activities in the occupied territories. Immediate measures should be taken to prevent violence against civilians. China also calls for an early resumption of peace talks in order to expedite the political settlement to the question of Palestine and thereby fundamentally achieve common and lasting security. Thirdly, we should coordinate efforts of the international community and strengthen synergy for peace. The international community should further strengthen coordination and put forward peace-promoting measures that entail joint participation at an early date. China is willing to join and support all efforts that are conducive to the political settlement of the question of Palestine. China plans to hold a seminar for peace activists in Palestine and Israel within this year to contribute wisdom for the settlement of the Palestinian question. Fourthly, we should take an integrated approach and promote peace through development. While promoting political negotiations, attention should be given to development and cooperation between Palestine and Israel. China views both Palestine and Israel as important partners in the Belt and Road Initiative. China stands ready to carry out mutually beneficial cooperation in the spirit of development for peace and continue to support Palestine in speeding up its development. China has proposed to launch China-Palestine-Israel tripartite dialogue mechanism in order to coordinate the implementation of major assistance programs in Palestine. So these are the four proposals made by President Xi recently for achieving a comprehensive, appropriate, and lasting solution of the Palestinian issue. And China's diplomatic efforts will be channeled in this direction. So this is how China will work to promote the solution of the Palestinian issue down the road. And we believe that all the members of the international community should think hard about what is the approach forward and respond positively to the proposals made by China, because we believe that these four proposals, once truly implemented, will really go a long way towards helping the issue to be solved through negotiations and also contributing to stability of the relations between the two sides. So we just hope that the members of the international community will be forthcoming in supporting China's proposals and working together to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Oleg, to us.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm Oleg Zelenin with TASS News Agency. Ambassador, in South Sudan, there were a lot of calls for implementing sanctions on South Sudan because of the problems with deploying the protection force for a long time. And after this initiative failed last year, it took months of negotiations, and then finally an agreement was reached on the base for such troops in South Sudan. Looking back, would you say that this whole situation indicates the advantage of careful diplomacy over sanctions, or would you say that imposing such measures from the very beginning would help to get troops into the country much faster? Thank you.
Indeed, the issue of South Sudan has been on the agenda of the Security Council for a long time. And both the Security Council members and regional countries and organizations, AU and IGAD, are trying very hard to stop the bloodshed in South Sudan and also to achieve national reconciliation, to provide humanitarian assistance to the country. Now, what happens is that the situation still is very serious in South Sudan. But again, the government of South Sudan has been making efforts to try to put up a mechanism of national dialogue to achieve or to work towards national reconciliation. And they have made positive progress in this respect with the help of the neighboring countries and IGAD. And also there is a IGAD proposal for a revitalization conference for South Sudan, and this would involve multi-players to ensure that there is the dynamics of of the parties inside the country and also in a regional setting, working towards reconciliation and improving the situation on the ground. So with these mechanisms and efforts in place, the most important thing currently for the international community is to make sure that the various parties in South Sudan see the merit of achieving national reconciliation and ending the conflict that they have at the moment, and also to see that there is no other way out of the current challenges than national reconciliation through dialogue. The military fighting or military means will not resolve the problem. They will magnify the problems. So I think what the international community must do now is to support the various parties in South Sudan to achieve national reconciliation, to stop the hostilities, and also to get back on the track of national development. And secondly, to help these ongoing mechanisms and the facilitators and countries supporting these ongoing mechanisms to achieve constructive results, and certainly to make sure that the IGAD is fully equipped to carry out the verification mandates of AU in South Sudan. So these are the measures that we must take now to try to improve the situation on the ground. And the sanctions issue, for instance, arms embargo and listing names, have been flouted in the council, in the corridors of the Security Council. But I and some other countries do not think that at the moment that is the right thing to do, because I illustrated what the international community must do currently, and that is the way to make the best impact on the parties in South Sudan. And sanctions regime put in place now would probably discourage and cancel whatever positive development that have been achieved, or the potential for making further positive moves. So we, China, and some other countries, including African countries, don't see this as the right thing to do at the moment. Thank you.
It is, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I have a Mideast question, but I want to go back to North Korea for 1 minute. Am I correct in saying that your message to the Trump administration is twofold, that there shouldn't be any conditions on holding talks and that unilateral sanctions are counterproductive. And secondly, that your message to the DPRK is that keeping up with all of these ICBM tests and nuclear tests is also counterproductive. My question is on the Gulf crisis. The foreign minister of Qatar was here last week, and he said that he believes that there is a role for the UN Security Council to play in trying to resolve this crisis. And I wonder if you believe that there is a role for the Security Council to play. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure you noticed that I didn't mention any names, nor do I intend to, but I did lay out what China believes are the essential things that must be done to get on track of working towards denuclearization and peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. And we believe that each relevant party should uphold the responsibilities, should shoulder the responsibilities and uphold the obligations provided for in the relevant Security Council resolutions. So that's the central message. And on relations between Qatar and other Gulf and Middle East countries, our view is that the sooner it is resolved through dialogue among the Gulf and other Middle East countries, the better it is for the region and also for the relevant individual countries. And that is why we have said that there is plenty space for brothers in the Gulf, in the Arab region, to sort out the problem in their traditional brotherly way, and we hope that things will move in this direction. And that is what we have been talking to the relevant parties. Of course, we see that the process may not be so easy, but we believe that once they work seriously on improving relations and sort out the key issues that must be dealt with, must be resolved among themselves, and start from lower hanging fruits and start with things that they have agreements, a process may be started to gradually turn over this page and work as good neighbors once again. And so far, I heard what you have heard, but I'm not aware of any formal request to the Security Council to address this issue.
Let's take a question from back row. Nizar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Nizar Aboud of Al Madin Television, Lebanon. My question is regarding another test which was carried out in Iran. And that test, of course, resulted in a statement by the P3 and Germany condemning it and considering it as a breach of 2231. How does China view such launch of a satellite into orbit? And how does the other Security Council member view, is it a breach of 2231 or is the nuclear deal still on according to your reading?
Mm-hmm. The agreement on the nuclear issue was not easy to achieve. It took years and years of hard negotiations, and I believe that that agreement represented a package solution that is good to Iran, that is good to the other parties to the agreement, and good to the international community. So the resolution gives blessing to the agreement. The most important thing at the current stage is to ensure that the agreement will continue to be honored for the common interest of the international community. And of course, different countries may have different interpretations of what a particular launching or activity would entail in security terms. But I think the most important thing is to go by, in both letter and spirit, the Security Council resolution. And it is in the best interest of the international community to make sure that the agreement is still honored and implemented comprehensively. Thank you.
Hi, we have to make room for the noon briefing. And let's take one last question. Matthew, please.
Matthew Lee, Inner City Press. Thanks a lot for the briefing on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. I wanted to ask you about the worsening crisis in Yemen. You mentioned it, and there was a meeting, but it seems like this afternoon there's a meeting of the Sanctions Committee in which they're going to hear about this attack that was done on a boat by the Saudi-led coalition. There's some reports of a missile being fired into Saudi Arabia by the Houthi side. There's some distrust, it's said, about the envoy. I'm just wondering who are the principal parties in this conflict, and are they living up to what they should in terms of peace and security? And what can the Security Council do? And just thanks for your long answer on North Korea. I have a very short follow-up, which is just, can you confirm that there's been no request for a meeting on the most recent launch? And if so, what's your interpretation of the failure? Often there is such a request. Given that there is none now, do you see it as a good thing or as a kind of ominous thing? Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the request or the absence of a request for a meeting, so far there's no request for a Security Council meeting, and well, I do not intend to read what this means, because there is we have seen the statements from various countries on the recent launching, including from my government, and I think I do not detect any change of position fundamentally in these statements. But the role of the Security Council is apparent, and there are previous resolutions that must be implemented, and also further efforts are underway to look at what the Council needs to do down the road. So I wouldn't really read too much into the absence of a request for a Council meeting. Now on Yemen. Indeed, the situation is getting more and more serious. And the Council members are of the view that the war must stop in the country through a process of dialogue and negotiations. China supports the role of the Secretary General and his special representative in trying to bring the two principal parties in Yemen together for a settlement. And also, of course, there is the role of the regional countries and members of the international community that must work together to ensure an early cessation of hostilities in the country and in the region, and also to work in the same direction of promoting dialogue, working out arrangements by the two principal parties in Yemen. And of course, this has a wider implication regarding counterterrorism in the region. We certainly hope that the countries will see the developments of the situation in Yemen, not only from the perspective of what it means, what it entails for the future of the country and for the people in Yemen, but also a wider geographical implication of the ongoing conflict in Yemen. It feeds into the problems that we see in other parts of the region. So I would say that my sense is that the Council members are united on the things that must be done regarding Yemen, and they are also working on the various parties. The only thing is that we'd rather see a positive turn of events sooner than later. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, we understand you have a lot of questions, but we really have to end here. And please feel free to contact us. We try to come back with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now enjoy your noon press briefing. The afternoon press briefing.